Hi, this is May.
And I'm Joy.
Welcome to the QWERTY Writing Life Podcast, where we have candid chats about our creative lives.
May and I are friends, writers, and creatives who want to share our endeavors out loud.
On this podcast, we're here to encourage each other, and you too,
and share tools we've discovered or made up.
So you can follow your passions with a little support. So grab your tea
or your coffee
and let's get started. And today we're going to be talking about perspective. Again, I know we did it once already, but this is a different kind of perspective. This time we're going to talk about the details. Last time we did big picture. This time we're going to do details. But before we get into that, Joy, how was your week?
Oh, my week has been great. And I actually have been working on a book that I'm trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to put it on my website. It'll be something to kind of help with authors who are looking to get an editor and looking into what they need to do and if they're ready for an editor. And the title is Ready for the Red Pen, actually. So
I like that.
Oh, thank you.
I love alliteration.
I do too. My husband makes so much fun of me for my alliteration, but I don't care.
No, you shouldn't.
So
it's perfect.
I decided, because this is going to be kind of a smaller thing, I'm probably just a PDF for a while, that I was going to make my own book cover. And I am by no means a graphic designer. I don't pretend to be, but I do like to play around with things sometimes. And so I made a book cover, and I'm actually quite pleased with it. I really like it. So it's good enough for this, and I'm excited about it.
Graphic design joy. I love it.
Thank you. You're so sweet.
Well, this week I actually wrote a magazine article, so I stepped into Joy's shoes, which is funny because graphic design is normally what I do, and journalism is more of what Joy does. But I gave it a go, and I wrote a magazine article for work, and it was actually a lot of fun. And Joy's going to, of course, edit it for me and make sure that I got all of the AP grammar and structure done. Thank you, Joy. I really appreciate you, my friend.
I will take those Oxford commas out anytime. I know. Now.
That hurt. Well, Joy and I are on opposite sides of the Oxford comma, so you guys should know that. I am so pro Oxford comma, and have to pry it out of my cold, comma, stiff, comma, dead hands.
Oh my word, I love it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm being a little biased. You go ahead, share your opinion.
Oh, I see that look you're giving. I just, I'm not all about the unnecessary. Oh,
it's so necessary.
Okay.
We will talk about this
a court
later.
of law has stated, but anyway, just know that when I edit your fiction, I will make sure you have those Oxford commas in there.
Okay,
because I love you, and I love all of my Oxford comma lovers.
Thanks. Does Chicago style have Oxford commas? I don't know. I'll have to look that up.
Yes.
They do. See, I knew I like that Chicago style. Anyway, so those are our weeks, guys.
We left the creative for the commas. That was interesting.
Oh, and more alliteration. There we go.
Oh, I know. See, I am on fire tonight, people.
So we are going to be talking about what's in the details. And so this is for after you have finished your draft and you are going back after your structure is finalized and everything, and you're going back and you are getting it ready for your final proofreading. Am I right?
Yeah, those last few stages. Yeah, the little things.
So here are some tips in order to get those little things just right. And by little things, we're talking about grammar, we're talking about sentence structure, we're talking about active verbs, we're talking about active voice, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll do one since this is one I know, and then you're going to be doing a lot of the other. Okay, so the first tip is to take your manuscript and start from the end. So take the very last sentence, look at that sentence for grammatical errors, and then move on to the sentence before that and check that sentence out, and so on and so forth. Because you have a fresh perspective whenever you're seeing it differently, and you are literally seeing it upside down whenever you start from the very last sentence.
That is true. And it makes a huge difference. And another thing is, okay, at this point, you've probably read your manuscript more times than you can count. At this point, you might even be a little sick of it. I hope not, but you could be. But you always start at the beginning, right? Okay, so that part gets your fresh eyes and your fresh work ethic. And by the time you get to that last chapter, you are so stinking exhausted that you are just ready to be done. You are ready to hit the end and move on. And so those last chapters, or the last parts of the chapter, the last few sentences, always seem to get a little bit of your leftovers. So this way, you are actually giving your fresh eyes and your fresh drive to get it done to the end first. So we can give the end bits a little bit of love.
Yeah. And they need it sometimes. Let's just be honest, okay? And sometimes the end is just lacking. Yes. So this way it won't. You're welcome. Exactly. What's number 2?
Okay, so number 2 is make a list of the changes that you need. Okay, so this is something that I do for my own personal editing. It's also something that I would do for my clients. Okay, so in this particular round that you are needing to focus on your subject-verb agreement. You're wanting to check and make sure that you have strong verbs and even some strong descriptors. Maybe those are some of the things that are on your list. Instead of trying to do too much, though, because what ends up happening is if you've got a list of 10 things that you're wanting to look for in each sentence, and you try to hit all 10 of those things in one read through of that sentence, you're going to miss things. It's not going to work. Okay, so make your list of the things that you're needing to work on and then break it down. So maybe a couple of these things can go together well, so do those together and read through and find those things, and then get the other couple of things that go together well and then read through again specifically for those things. And this may work to where you can take a sentence or a paragraph or whatever and do it 2 or 3 times to get each of these different sets of things that you're working on. Or you may just need to do the whole manuscript with these 3 things, and then do the whole manuscript with these 3 things, or whatever the case may be. But it all starts with making a list of the things that you need to look at and focus on, and then breaking it down from there.
And how do you find the things that you need to look at and focus on?
Okay, so the way that it typically works is when you're first starting out, where we talked about the big picture stuff last week. So that's where you get what most people use the term developmental edit. So those are the big things. Those are the plot holes, and those are the characters that aren't deep, or those are the big things. Okay, and then you work your way down. So like content edit is what most people would call the second part, and then line edits or proofreading would kind of be at the end. So in the content is really where you're doing a lot of your structure of your sentences, your subject-verb agreement, your clauses in the right place, misplaced modifiers, all of those sorts of things. No dangling participles. Or, I don't know, hey, if you can break that rule because you know how to break that rule, then you break that rule and you have those participles dangling. Whatever works for you. And then in the final part, those are those little tiny details. Those are the the commas and the just the minutia of it all. Okay, the real polish. So but within each of those categories or those parts to the editing process, you're going to have a list. And so you can't get all of those things in one read through. And that's why it takes editors a while, and that's why you pay editors a good amount of money, because it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what it kind of boils down to, as well as you are self-editing your manuscript, you need to honestly assess yourself and be able to honestly say, you know what, I'm really bad with action verbs. I need to put that on my list. And you know what? I always put 4 prepositional phrases in one sentence, and I know that that's too many, so I need to put that on my list.
That's me.
You just got to be honest with yourself and honest with your writing, and know the things that you need. And it's going to be different with different projects too, because you'll fix something because you've gone through this self-editing process for one project so many times that you might actually fix one of those problems, but there's going to be new ones that come up. And that's where you have to just keep your eyes open and keep observant with how you're writing and what you're dealing with for that day and for that project. So that's what goes on your list. Those are the things that go on your list. If you find yourself writing the word frequently, 70 times in a writing session, you need to write that word on, check manuscript for the word frequently.
I have now and just are on my list right now.
So there's some actionable things that you can do in order to create your list. And when you have that list, then you can pair things up and go through and actually get those edits in. So our next tip is breaking it down, and Joy, you go with that one because that's yours too.
Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, this really goes along very closely with what we just talked about. So it is the taking it step by step, taking it word by word, taking it sentence by sentence. Don't look at your whole chapter. This is not where you're looking at the chapter as a whole and you're fixing big plot holes. We're past that. We're at the point where we are literally going comma by comma. We're at that point. So make sure that and it is a mindset shift. Like you have to make sure that your mind is with you on this and it understands, hey, I am looking at this. I'm not looking at this. I'm looking at this. And so it is definitely a different mindset when you're at this point. So, yeah.
So our final tip is going to be, if you are editing or proofreading on the screen, we want you to print it out and start doing it on paper. And if you're editing on paper and you're tired of doing that, then you need to move it to the screen. Just flip-flop the way that you're viewing it. You can get fresh perspective on what you're reading and hopefully find some of those mistakes.
Absolutely. That's a great tip. Yes. So yay, I think we've done really good. Was there anything else that we're going to add in with this?
I just want to say that it's so important to self-edit before you send this off to an agent. Before you even send it off to an editor, it's so important to make sure that you've done everything that you could possibly do before you share that or pay somebody in order to edit your work. And I think it's so important before you share that with an agent. And I know that they're going to look at it and they're going to edit it, and there are going to be other editors in your future. But what you present to that person, it's like a first impression, and you really want to start off on the right foot.
Absolutely. Great tip. Great tip.
Thank you.
And editors everywhere, thank you for that too.
Well, and we also want to present ourselves, if you're going to be an indie author and you're going to have an indie publishing company, or you're just going to publish yourself as an independent, then you want to have a product that is equal to, if not better than, traditional publishers. And editing is one of the best ways that you can do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Multiple editing processes is one of the best ways that you can do that.
Yes. Great tip.
The more you know.
Oh no, are we going to get in trouble with NBC?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Oh goodness. All right. So I think we have come to time for our QWERTY challenge for the week.
If you'll wait about 4 seconds, we sure will.
Okay. Oh, we can't say that.
Oh, that's our time, guys.
Oh, goodness.
Okay, and so now it is time for our QWERTY challenge of the week. And Joy is going to give that too, because this is her wheelhouse, guys. If you haven't noticed, she is an editor. She's a freelance editor. So she's got all of the good tips for us today. And she's also going to give you your QWERTY challenge.
Oh, well, thank you, May. You're super sweet. Yes, I do love to work, and I'm specifically working with indie authors because you know what? We need a little extra help, guys. So I am there. I'm with you. So here is our challenge for the week. If you're in the details part of self-editing or revising, you need to ask yourself if you're trying to do too much. Because I think that a lot of times we get really frustrated because we are trying to do too many things at the same time. And so just making that list of what you know you need to work on, the things that you've noticed that are some of your issues, make that list and then break it down from there and try again. And I think you'll find that it's a lot less intimidating and it's a lot less frustrating when you do that. So that would be our challenge, to make that list and then to kind of separate it out and see how it goes.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, and we also think that you should probably start on a smaller section of your manuscript first. So maybe pull out a scene that you think needs help, or do a short story that you think needs that editing love. Then if you do that first, you can kind of get to practicing it. And the more that you do it, the more you're going to find out your routine. You're going to find out your focus levels. You're going to be able to really hone in the things that you need to do in order to give a really great self-edit.
Absolutely. And you know, when you said that about the short story, it made me think this might actually really help you. If you're struggling with this, take a short story and go back and do our challenge from last time with the big picture perspective, okay? To look at it from a different angle, to do the sensory things, to take those 5 steps. If you missed that, check out that last one. Do that. Then in another week or so, you know, give yourself a little time. You don't have to do this all in a day. You shouldn't do this all in a day. Then take these tips and try this to get those details for the short story. And then that way what happens is when you have a shorter piece of fiction, you're able to see the results a lot faster. And that's going to help you really understand this and see it in action. I love short stories and short fiction. So
it is the best way to practice your writing craft too. It's really great. So short stories for the win. All right, guys. Well, we hope that you have a very creative week. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thanks for listening until the end.
Seriously, you're a trooper.
Do you think QWERTY Writing Life is the bomb?
May, you just said the bomb.
Don't you censor me.
If you think QWERTY Writing Life rocks ice for real,
oh my word,
please rate, review, and share us with others.
If you have questions about this week's episode or want to start a conversation, you can reach us by visiting QWERTYWritingLife.podbean.com.
We'll be back next week with more candid chats for you.